Just thought that you were...
Drunk?
Yeah.
Really drunk?
Fuck. Yeah.
Well, I'm not. But that's good, isn't it?
What's up, beautiful people, and welcome to my movie analysis of Promising Young Woman. Where to begin? Well, I guess I'll start with the warnings. Massive trigger warning because the movie revolves around assault. Also, there will be spoilers. So this is your chance to exit if you don't want me spoiling the movie for you, or if this is too sensitive for you. So without further ado, let's jump right in. First of all, can we talk about the contrast of thrill and romance in this movie? The movie, as I mentioned, revolves around this woman, Cassie, getting revenge for having been assaulted. That's what I thought initially. And then we find out that she's trying to avenge her best friend Nina, who was publicly assaulted while unconscious back in medical school. Told y'all that it was very dark. But somehow, the screenwriter or producer or whomever managed to not exactly lighten this very dark topic, but throw in some lightheartedness in the form of romance in order to offset the darkness of the topic. But there's a point to the romance. It moves the story along brilliantly. In a nutshell, Cassie dropped out of medical school to take care of Nina, who equally dropped out as a result of the assault. Now, Nina eventually dies, leaving Cassie desperate to right the wrong. Hence why she spends her nights after work going around town to bars, pretending to be drunk to bait predators, which we'll get to in a moment. And then Ryan, whom Cassie went to medical school with, shows up at a coffee shop at which she works to get coffee, recognizes her, they get to talking and end up dating, only for her to find out later that he was involved in the assault of her friend Nina. And that was where the movie climaxed. And boy, was that a twist. The guy who was the ringleader of Nina's assault, Al Monroe, ends up killing Cassie when she shows up as a stripper for her revenge at the cabin, which him and his other friends are having a bachelor party. They dispose of her body by burning it, and they think they've gotten away with murder, like they got away with the assault. Nah. This is where they underestimated her. She had written out notes, scheduled text messages and whatnot with evidence in case she went missing, which she did. Now let's circle back to the opening scene where Cassie is at the bar, almost spread eagle, drunk by herself. Anyone with a brain can spot it as bait. She's clearly pretending as she's doing the most. What woman goes to a bar by herself intending to get drunk? We normally go in groups for that sort of activity so that our friends could keep an eye on us and our purses. But those guys at the bar are too busy being jerks to realize that. And let's talk about the guy who seems the least likely to be a threat was the actual threat, the nice guy. I found that very interesting, proving that there is in fact a difference between being nice and kind. A kind guy wouldn't try to take advantage of a drunk woman. Also interesting was how these guys called her psycho when she suddenly sobered up right before the intended assault. But then again, this movie is full of contrasts. The banter between Cassie and Ryan isn't your typical romantic exchange. It's a lot of dark humor, but it works for the movie. Now let's get into the meat of the matter. The assault and how real the victim blaming and shaming is.
I don't know why you're mad at me. I'm not the only one that didn't believe it. If you have a reputation for sleeping around, then maybe people aren't going to believe you when you say something's happened. I mean, crying wolf. You thought I was crying wolf?
Yes, Alexander Monroe. He actually just came back and gave a talk here. Oh, he's a really nice guy, really smart. Are you a friend of his?
No. So you don't remember the accusations made against Al Monroe?
I don't.
He took a girl, Nina Fisher, the one you don't remember, back to his room, where he had sex with her repeatedly and in front of his friends, while she was too drunk to have any idea what was going on. She was covered in bruises the next day. Handprints, I guess you could say.
Was it reported?
Yes.
Do you know who Nina spoke to?
You.
Until the victim is someone you love, as was the case with Dean Walker. And for me, if the argument is that dressing provocatively or getting drunk is the reason someone got assaulted? Well, then how do you explain a 2-year-old getting assaulted? And then there's the isolation that comes with reporting it and no one believing you and dismissing you. And the movie did a great job of depicting Cassie's isolation, with her always being in her room thinking or scheming. And then there's the last 20 minutes of the movie. It was very difficult to watch. It was even more difficult to watch than a slasher movie because this actually does happen in real life, unfortunately. So a brief description of what happens is Cassie shows up to this cabin by herself. It's a bachelor party comprising of at least 10 men. She gets them all wasted. Taste of your own medicine. Except for the groom to be Al Monroe, whom, as I mentioned earlier, was the ringleader in Nina's assault. Cassie takes him upstairs, handcuffs him to the bed. There's a whole exchange in which he discovers she's not really a stripper, but the friend of the dead girl. And that's when he knows he's in trouble and must break loose, or else. And then there's a bit of a struggle. He breaks loose off one handcuff, overpowers her, suffocates, and kills her. If I were to rewatch that movie, I'd fast forward that scene. I was in actual physical pain watching that scene, but I needed to in order to give a well-rounded review. The only thing about the movie that was unclear was the cause of Nina's death. I would assume it was psychological trauma from having been assaulted, but it also could have been a pre-existing condition now coupled with the assault. Or maybe she got hit by a bus. We don't know. Also, it's not clear what happens to all the men Cassie went home with, fake drunk, who almost, or in a few cases, took advantage of her. Did she report them? Did they get arrested? Or did she just write down their names in her little blue book and mark them off for her own satisfaction? And what was up with that scrunchie she put on her hands before she wrote in that book? Was it Nina's? For these reasons, I give the movie an A-. By the way, the movie has been nominated for 4 Golden Globes. Well deserved. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on Thursday. Bye.